Welcome to Global Bible Reading. The book of 2 Samuel, chapter 12. The Lord sent Nathan to David. Nathan went to David. Nathan said, "There were two men in a city. One man was rich, but the other man was poor. The rich man had very many sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little female lamb that he bought. The poor man fed the lamb. The lamb grew up with this poor man and his children. The lamb ate from the poor man's food and drank from the poor man's cup. The lamb slept on the poor man's chest. The lamb was like a daughter to the poor man. Then a traveler stopped to visit the rich man. The rich man wanted to give food to the traveler, but the rich man did not want to take anything from his own sheep or cattle to feed the traveler. No, the rich man took the lamb from the poor man. The rich man killed the lamb and cooked it for his visitor. David became very angry against the rich man. He said to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, surely the man who did this should die. He must pay 4 times the price of the lamb because he did this terrible thing and because he had no mercy." Then Nathan said to David, "You are that rich man. This is what the Lord God of Israel says. I chose you to be the king of Israel. I saved you from Saul. I let you take his family and his wives, and I make you king of Israel and Judah. As if that were not enough, I gave you more and more. So why did you ignore the Lord's command? Why did you do the thing which he says is wrong? You let the Ammonites kill Uriah the Hittite, and you took his wife. In this way you killed Uriah with a sword. So the sword will never leave your family. You took Uriah the Hittite's wife. In this way you saw that you did not care for me. This is what the Lord says. I am bringing trouble against you. This trouble will come from your own family. I will take your wives from you and give to them to a person who is very close to you. This person will sleep with your wives, and everyone will know it. You slept with Bathsheba in secret. But I will punish you so all the people of Israel can see it." Then David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." Nathan said to David, "The Lord will forgive you. Even for this sin, you will not die. But you did things that made the Lord's enemies lose their respect for him. So your new baby son will die." Then Nathan went home, and the Lord caused the baby boy that was born to David and Uriah's wife to become very sick. David prayed to God for the baby. David refused to eat or drink. He went into his house and stayed there. He lay on the ground all night. The leaders of David's family came and tried to pull David up from the ground, but David refused to get up. He refused to eat food with these leaders. On the 7th day, the baby died. David's servants were afraid to tell him that the baby was dead. They said, "Look, we tried to talk to David while the baby was alive, but he refused to listen to us. If we tell David that the baby is dead, maybe he will do something bad to himself." But David saw his servants whispering. Then David understood that the baby was dead. So David asked his servants, "Is the baby dead?" The servants answered, "Yes, he is dead." Then David got up from the floor. He washed himself. He changed his clothes and got dressed. Then he went into the Lord's house to worship. Then he went home and asked for something to eat. His servants gave him some food, and he ate. David's servants said to him, "Why are you doing this thing? When the baby was still living, you refused to eat. You cried, but when the baby died, you got up and ate food." David said, "While the baby was still living, I refused to eat, and I cried because I thought, 'Who knows, maybe the Lord will feel sorry for me and let the baby live.' But now the baby is dead, so why should I refuse to eat? Can I bring the baby back to life? No. Someday I will go to him, but he cannot come back to me." Then David comforted Bathsheba his wife. He slept with her and had sexual relations with her. Bathsheba became pregnant again. She had another son. David named the boy Solomon. The Lord loved Solomon. The Lord sent word through Nathan the prophet. Nathan gave Solomon the name Jedidiah. Nathan did this for the Lord. Rabbah was the capital city of the Ammonites. Joab fought against Rabbah and captured it. Joab sent messengers to David and said, "I have fought against Rabbah. I have captured the city of waters. Now bring the other people together and attack this city Rabbah. Capture this city before I capture it. If I capture this city, I will be called by my name." So David gathered all of the people and went to Rabbah. He fought against Rabbah and captured the city. David took the crown of their king's head. The crown was gold and weighed about 75 pounds. This crown had precious stones in it. They put the crown on David's head. David took many valuable things out of the city. David also brought out of the people of the city Rabbah and made them work with saws, iron, picks, and axes. He also forced them to build things with bricks. David did the same thing to all of the Ammonite cities. Then David and all of his army went back to Jerusalem. Chapter 13. David had a son named Absalom. Absalom's sister was named Tamar. Tamar was very beautiful. Another one of David's sons, Ammon, was in love with Tamar. Tamar was a virgin. Ammon did not think he should do anything bad to her. But Ammon wanted her very much. Ammon thought about her so much that he made himself sick. Ammon had a friend named Jonadab, son of Sameah. Sameah was David's brother. Jonadab was a very clever man. Jonadab said to Ammon, "Every day you look thinner and thinner. You are the king's son. You have plenty to eat. So why are you losing weight? Tell me." Ammon told Jonadab, "I love Tamar, but she is the sister of my half-brother Absalom." Jonadab said to Ammon, "Go to bed. Act like you are sick. Then your father will come to see you. Tell him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come in and give me food to eat.' Let her make the food in front of me. Then I will see it and eat it from her hand. So Ammon lay down in bed and acted like he was sick. King David came in to see Ammon. Ammon said to King David, "Please let my sister Tamar come in. Let her make 2 cakes for me while I watch. Then I can eat from her hands." David sent messengers to Tamar's house. The messengers told Tamar, "Go to your brother Ammon's house and make some food for him." So Tamar went to the house of her brother Ammon. Ammon was in bed. Tamar took some dough, pressed it together with her hands, and cooked the cakes. She did this while Ammon watched. Then Tamar took the cakes out of the pan and set them out for Ammon. But Ammon refused to eat. Ammon said to his servants, "Get out of here, leave me alone." So all of his servants left the room. Then Ammon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the bedroom and feed me by hand." So Tamar took the cakes she had made and went into her brother's bedroom. She started to feed Ammon, but he grabbed her hand. He said to her, "Sister, come and sleep with me." Tamar said to Ammon, "No, brother, don't force me to do this. Don't do this shameful thing. Terrible things like this should never be done in Israel. I would never get rid of my shame, and people would think that you are just a common criminal. Please talk with the king. He will let you marry me." But Ammon refused to listen to Tamar. He was stronger than Tamar. He forced her to have sexual relations with him. Then Amnon began to hate Tamar. Amnon hated her much more than he had loved her before. Amnon said to Tamar, "Get up and get out of here." Tamar said to Amnon, "No, don't send me away like this. That would be even worse than what you did before." But Amnon refused to listen to Tamar. Amnon called his servant and said, "Get this girl out of this room now, and lock the door after her." So Amnon's servant led Tamar out of the room and locked the door after her. Tamar was wearing a long robe with many colors. The king's virgin daughters wore robes like this. Tamar tore her robe of many colors and put ashes on her head. Then she put her hand on her head and began crying. Then Tamar's brother Absalom said to her, "Have you been with your brother Amnon? Did he hurt you? Now calm down, sister. Amnon is your brother, so we will take care of this. Don't let it upset you too much." So Tamar did not say anything. She quietly went to live at Absalom's house. King David heard the news and became very angry. Absalom began to hate Amnon. Absalom did not say one word, good or bad, to Amnon. Absalom hated Amnon because Amnon had raped his sister Tamar. 2 years later, Absalom had some men come to Baal Hazor to cut the wool from his sheep. Absalom invited all of the king's sons to come and watch. Absalom went to the king and said, "I have some men coming to cut the wool from my sheep. Please come with your servants and watch." King David said to Absalom, "No, son, we will not all go. It will be too much trouble for you. Absalom begged David to go. David did not go, but he did give his blessing. Absalom said, "If you don't want to go, then please let my brother Amnon go with me." King David asked Absalom, "Why should he go with you?" Absalom kept begging David. Finally, David let Amnon and all of the king's other sons go with Absalom. Then Absalom gave this command to his servants: "Watch Amnon when he is drunk and feeling good from the wine. I will give you the command. You must attack Amnon and kill him. Don't be afraid of being punished. After all, you will only be obeying my command. Now, be strong and brave." So Absalom's young soldiers did what he said. They killed Amnon. But all of David's other sons escaped. Each son got on his mule and escaped. The king's sons were still on their way into town, but King David got a message about what happened. But the message was, "Absalom has killed all of the king's sons. Not one of the sons was left alive." King David tore his clothes and lay on the ground. All of David's officers standing near him also tore their clothes. But then David's brother, Jonadab, son of Shemaiah, said, "Don't think that all of the king's sons were killed. Only Amnon is dead. Absalom has been planning this from the day that Amnon raped his sister Tamar. My lord and king, don't think that all of your sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead." Absalom ran away. There was a guard standing on the city wall. He saw many people coming from the other side of the hill. So Jonadab said to King David, "Look, I was right. The king's sons are coming." The king's sons came in just after Jonadab said that. They were crying loudly. David and all of his officers began crying. They all cried very hard. David cried for his son Amnon every day. Absalom ran away to Talmai, son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. After Absalom had run away to Geshur, he stayed there for 3 years. King David was comforted after Amnon died, but he missed Absalom very much. Chapter 14. Joab, son of Zeruiah, knew that King David missed Absalom very much. So Joab sent messengers to Tekoa to bring a wise woman from there. Joab said to these wise women, "Please pretend to be very sad. Put on clothes of sadness. Don't dress up. Act like a woman who has been crying many days for someone that died. Go to the king and talk to him using these words that I tell you." Then Joab told the wise women what to say. Then the women from Tekoa talked to the king. She bowed with her face to the ground. Then she said, "King, please help me." King David said to her, "What's your problem?" The women said, "I am a widow. My husband is dead. I had 2 sons. They were out in the field fighting. There was no one to stop them. One son killed the other son. Now the whole family is against me. They said to me, 'Bring us the son who killed his brother, and we will kill him.' Why? Because he killed his brother. My son is like the last spark of a fire. If they kill my son, then that fire will burn out and be finished. He is the only son left alive to get his father's property. So my dead husband's property will go to someone else, and his name will be removed from the land. Then the king said to the women, "Go home. I will take care of things for you." The women of the cow said to the king, "Let the blame be on me, my lord and king. You and your kingdom are innocent." King David said, "If someone is saying bad things to you, then bring that person to me. He won't bother you again." The women said, "Please use the name of the Lord your God and swear, promise that you will stop those people. They want to punish my son for murdering his brother. Swear that you will let them destroy my son." David said, "As the Lord lives, no one will hurt your son. Not even one hair from your son's head will fall to the ground." The women said, "My lord and king, please let me say something else to you." The king said, "Speak." Then the women said, "Why have you planned these things against the people of God? Yes, when you say these things, you show you are guilty. Why? Because you have not brought back the son that you forced to leave home. We will all die someday. We will be like water that is spilled on the ground. No person can gather this water back from the ground. You know God forgives people. God made plans for people who are forced to run away for safety. God doesn't force them to run away from Him. My Lord and King, I came to say these words to you. Why? Because the people made me afraid. I say to myself, I will talk to the king. Maybe the king will help me. The king will listen to me and save me from the man who wants to kill me and my son. That man just wants to keep us from getting the things God gave us. I know that the words of my Lord the King will give me rest, because you are like an angel from God. You know what is good and what is bad, and the Lord your God is with you. King David answered the women, "You must answer the question I will ask you." The women said, "My Lord and King, please ask your question." The king said, "Did Joab tell you to say all these things?" The women answered, "As you live, my lord and king, you are right. Your officer Joab did tell me to say these things. Joab did these things so that you would see things differently. My lord, you are as wise as God's angel. You know everything that happens on earth." The king said to Joab, "Look, I will do what I promised. Now please bring back the young man Absalom." Joab bowed with his face on the ground. He blessed King David and said, "Today I know that you are pleased with me. I know because you have done what I asked." Then Joab got up and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. But King David said, "Absalom can go back to his own house. He cannot come to see me." So Absalom went back to his own house. Absalom could not go to see the king. People rarely brag about how good looking Absalom was. No man in Israel was as handsome as Absalom. There was not a blemish on Absalom, from his head to his feet. At the end of every year, Absalom cut the hair from his head and weighed it. The hair weighed about 5 pounds. Absalom had 3 sons and 1 daughter. This daughter's name was Tamar. Tamar was a beautiful woman. Absalom lived in Jerusalem for 2 full years without being allowed to visit King David. Absalom sent messengers to Joab. These messengers asked Joab to send Absalom to the king. But Joab would not come to Absalom. Absalom sent messages a second time, but Joab still refused to come. Then Absalom said to his servants, "Look, Joab's field is next to my field. He has barley growing in that field. Go burn the barley." So Absalom's servants went and started a fire in Joab's field. Joab got up and came to the Absalom's house. Joab said to Absalom, "Why did your servants burn my field?" Absalom said to Joab, "I sent a message to you. I asked you to come here. I wanted to send you to the king. I wanted you to ask him why he asked me to come home from Geshur. I cannot see him, so it would have been better for me to stay at Geshur. Now let me see the king. If I have sinned, then he can kill me." Then Joab came to the king and told him Absalom's words. The king called for Absalom. Then Absalom came to the king. Absalom bowed low on the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. Chapter 15. After this, Absalom got a chariot and horses for himself. He had 50 men run in front of him while he drove the chariot. Absalom got up early and stood near the gate. Absalom watched for any person with problems who was going to King David for judgment. Then Absalom would talk to that person. Absalom would say, "What city are you from?" The man would answer, "I am from such and such family group in Israel." Then Absalom would say to this man, "Look, you are right, but King David wouldn't listen to you." Absalom would also say, "Oh, I wish someone would make me a judge in this country. Then I could help every man who comes to me with a problem. I would help him get a fair solution to his problem." And if a person came to Absalom and started to bow down to him, Absalom would treat him like a close friend. Absalom would reach out and touch that person and kiss him. Absalom did that to all the Israelites who came to King David for judgment. In this way, Absalom won the hearts of all the people of Israel. After 4 years, Absalom said to King David, "Please let me go to complete my special promise that I made to the Lord at Hebron. I made that promise while I was still living in Geshur. Aram, I said, if the Lord bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord." King David said, "Go in peace." Absalom went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies through all the family groups of Israel. These spies told the people, "When you hear the trumpet," they said, "Absalom has become the king at Hebron." Absalom invited 200 men to go with him. Those men left Jerusalem with him, but they did not know what he was planning. Ahithophel was one of David's advisors. Ahithophel was from the town of Gilo. While Absalom was offering sacrifices, he called Ahithophel to come from his city Gilo. Absalom's plans were working very well, and more people began to support him. A man came in to tell the news to David. The man said, "The people of Israel are beginning to follow Absalom." Then David said to all of his officers who were with him in Jerusalem, "We must escape. If we don't escape, then Absalom will not let us get away. Let's hurry before Absalom catches us. He will destroy us all, and he will kill the people of Jerusalem." The king's officers told him, "We will do anything you tell us." King David went out with all of the people in his house. The king left 10 of his wives to take care of the house. The king went out with all of his people following him. They stopped at the last house. All of his officers passed by the king, and all of the Gerethites, all of the Pelethites, and the Gethites, 600 men from Gad, passed by the king. The king said to Ittai from Gad, "Why are you also going with us? Turn back and stay with the new king, Absalom. You are a foreigner. This is not your homeland. Only yesterday you came to join me. Must you now wander from place to place with me? No, take your brothers and go back. May kindness and loyalty be shown to you." But Ittai answered the king, "As the Lord lives, and as long as you live, I will stay with you. I will be with you in life or death." David said to Ittai, "Come, let's go cross Kidron Brook." So Ittai from Gad and all of his people and their children crossed over Kidron Brook. All the people were crying loudly. King David crossed over Kidron Brook. Then all of the people went out to the desert. Zadok and all of the Levites with him were crying the box of God's agreement. They set down God's holy box, and Abiathar said prayers until all of the people had left Jerusalem. King David said to Zadok, "Take God's holy box back to Jerusalem. If the Lord is pleased with me, then he will bring me back and let me see Jerusalem and his temple. But if the Lord says that he is not pleased with me, then he can do anything he wants to me." The king said to Zadok the priest, "You are a seer. Go back to the city in peace. Take your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan, the son of Abiathar. I will be waiting near the places where people go across the river into the desert. I will wait there until I hear from you." So Zadok and Abiathar took God's holy box back to Jerusalem and stayed there. David went up the Mount of Olives. He was crying. He covered his head, and he went without shoes on his feet. All of the people with David also covered their heads. They went with David crying. A person told David, "Ahithophel is one of the people who made plans with Absalom." Then David prayed, "Lord, I ask you to make Ahithophel's advice useless." David came to the top of the mountain. This was where he often worshipped God. At the time Hushai and Archite came to him, Hushai's coat was torn, and there was dust on his head. David said to Hushai, "If you go with me, then you will be just one more person to care for. But if you go back to Jerusalem, you can make Ahithophel's advice become useless. Tell Absalom, King, I am your servant. I served your father, but now I will serve you. The priests Zadok and Abiathar will be with you. You must tell them everything you heard in the king's house. Zadok's son Ahimaaz and Abiathar's son Jonathan will be with them. You will send them to tell me everything you hear." Then David's friend Hushai went into the city, and Absalom arrived at Jerusalem.